Hello, horror fans. It's me, Cassandra from the Horrorcraft Podcast. And today we have a very special episode. We have on Chisto Healy, who is a dear friend to not only me, but the podcast. And we are talking about Underworld. This movie is not your mother's vampire. It brought vampires back into the cool spotlight and definitely was a trailblazer for a lot of vampire movies going forward. So if you love this movie, strap in, get your UV gun, stay away from silver, if you're a werewolf, and let's deep dive into the crazy story that is Underworld. Cue the music. Hello, horror fans. It's me, Cassandra, and
Mary.
we are the Horrorcraft Podcast. Kylie is not with us tonight, but she's here in spirit. She's with the ghost face behind me. She'll love that little tidbit. Because normally you're that ghost face, Mary. But tonight we have on a very special guest to help us with a pretty amazing deep dive. And that is Chisto Healy. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We love having you on every single time. And as soon as you literally uttered the words in our interview, I love Underworld and I love Kate Beckinsale, I knew this had to happen. So, Underworld is a fantastic series. I would definitely encourage everyone to watch all of the movies, but tonight we're just going to focus on the original, which is currently streaming on TUBI, of all places. We love TUBI. TUBI is a fantastic place to watch all the horror movies. So please go and watch it. But Kisto, you have a lot of books out right now. We were just talking about that. You have the one behind you, which is Gateway and Apartment
8.
8. Yes. And you also have a splatterpunk book out that you were just telling us about.
Yeah, Sam and Milo. It's definitely the most over the top, boundary crushing, brutal, depraved thing I've ever written. So
I'm a little scared because you told me that before with Two of a Kind.
oh
And
yeah, this puts Two of a Kind to shame. I think the difference is that that Two of a Kind is serious and it feels real, and
right.
it makes it more difficult, where this is very silly, so it's easier to take the disgusting stuff when you can laugh at it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like a Tucker and Dale versus
Tucker
Evil
and Dale
type.
is the best thing that's ever happened.
I know. I mean, like the thing that lives rent free in my mind from Tucker and Dale versus Evil is when the person chucks themselves into the wood chipper and he's like, why does this keep happening? like I and I love
That whole movie is just perfect. Like
oh
I could watch it 1,000 times.
I really could. But yeah, you just have so many. And I am forever in a day telling people not only about Two of a Kind, but also the bucket list, because the bucket list, I mean, like,
Loved it.
yeah, I mean, it's the perfect mashup. I know I said this in previous episodes, but you guys were like my favorite collaboration of
Yeah,
2022.
we really gelled together perfectly, and we both of us really still believe in that book and hope it gets more love, as time goes on. It's still getting attention. Like just the other day, one of my favorite bookstagrammers actually ended up reviewing it, and she said uh th this book reminded me why I fell in love with indie horror. And I was like, man, that's so cool.
What a great compliment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm nobody reads it and is like, wow, this is crap, you know, like it's just a matter of getting the eyes on it, you know.
Yeah, no, that is I will tell you, and anyone who has heard me say this could back this up, but when anybody is asking me like what is a book that you highly recommend, that is one of the first that just lives rent free in my mind because it's so out of the box just in terms of like anything that I would have thought it would have been. And it's just such a good burn all the way through, and like the way that things just evolve and the way you guys write it, like it to me, I could visualize it, like it literally was like it still plays rent free in my head as a movie. Like I still think about certain scenes and I'm like, damn, like
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy. So yeah, definitely we'll link everything down below. Check it. I mean, whatever genre you like, Kisto's probably got a book for it. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, anything that you would like in horror, I mean, it's just there. But I would definitely recommend starting with the bucket list and Two of a Kind. I mean, old people, serial killers, two serial killers for Two of a Kind. I mean,
That's
it's
gonna be next on my list.
yeah, no,
That
it's
sounds really good.
intense. Yeah, and when I remember when you told me about Two of a Kind, and you're like, just so you know, it has like 2 pages of like trigger warnings and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, well, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, when
Like
she
in the
told me that,
best possible way.
I was like, oh, that means it's a really good book.
Yeah.
So, you were saying earlier we were talking about Sam and Milo, and you were talking about the first line.
Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. I got the Kindle version. Okay, yep. I if you like out of this world fucked up books, I feel like this is gonna be it, and I'm so excited to read it.
Yeah, well, just so you know, it doesn't get better from there.
I mean, that's kind of a high compliment, to be honest. I mean,
That's just setting the tone.
yeah.
They always say that the first line is how you have to get the reader.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, and
But he wasn't
he,
kidding when he
yeah,
said read the first
no,
line.
he does. I mean, it just sucks you in. I mean, whichever story you are really just
You,
reading, I mean, just any experience. Because, like, when you came on, I've read different horror books before, but I didn't really get into the horror book scene until I really started like the meat and potatoes of this podcast. And really, as I
Mhm.
got into more, like through you, through Towse, through Ruth Ann, I mean, just like so much respect for what you guys are doing in regards to writing and independent writing, because I mean, you guys outpace a lot of just modern day horror when it comes to like film and television. Just the way you guys write certain things, I just don't feel like horror book talk gets enough credit, especially the independent side, because
Oh yeah,
I'm
for sure.
I mean, like, we talk about the bucket list, that reads like a horrifying episode of like From or whatever. Like, I was fully like seated. Like, when I was reading that book, nothing else existed. Like, I feel like time was just not on my side. So, I would highly recommend any of your books. I just feel like there's just such a novelty. To everything that we have going on with in regards to the horror genre. Like, I just feel like um it's a great time to be a reader, because there is kind of a horror renaissance going on that I think you and a lot of people are leading the charge to, and maybe you're not getting as much eyes on it now, but I feel like a lot of people are going to remember this like moment in time and this boom that you guys have going on.
God, I hope so. You keep mentioning Ruth Anna, and um I don't know. Well, actually, I don't know. Are you talking about Ruth Ann Jag or
Yes.
Ruth? Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking about I do love Ruth Ann, but I also love Ruth Anna Evans.
Oh
So
yeah, I've
uh,
seen you repost some. Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely check out all of your like
um
um the deep personal relationships that I've developed between you, Towse, and Ruth Ann. I mean, when you guys post somebody, I know when you're giving a book recommendation about somebody, I know that this is going to be like the good stuff.
well, then let me say Ruth Anna Evans' new book, Against Medical Advice, is phenomenal. Like everybody in the world should read that book. It's short, it's fast, but it grips you. You were talking about like from the first moment, it grips you and it doesn't let you go. You want to talk about a book that will not allow you to acknowledge the rest of the world until you finish it. Like it's that book.
Well, you know what I'm taking on vacation with me then. So I'm definitely going to be reading that because, yeah, I mean, I feel like there's just, we're getting back into it now, but I feel like for a long time, period of time, people, I think, just forgot the power of books and the art of
Mhm.
writing and how so many of these independent, we think bigger voices now, but were independent voices at the time, really shaped the way that we think about horror.
For sure.
So I'm just really glad that like you keep pumping stuff out and that everyone is just like, there's just so much good stuff. Like, we recently had on Tyler Page, and she has the Slasher Pass is the first one of her Final Girl series. But after having her on and rereading her book, I was telling Mary, I was like, it really got me like in a book mode. So I ended up like just gorging on a ton of books like in a couple of weeks. Like that was my solace, was like just running through a series of different horror books, and every time it was like, this is just so much better than so many things I could think of right now. And so I really hope that this boom continues. So definitely check out the links down below. Like I said, you have a book for anyone. So you think of what kind of genre you like, you probably have a book for it. So, but
Yeah, it's true. Paranormal, mystery, psychological thriller, creature feature, slasher, ghost story, whatever you want. It's there.
yeah,
Just check my Amazon. It's there.
yeah, check the Amazon. It's got everything. So, but yeah, I'm super excited because we're talking about Underworld, and Underworld it's kind of one of the kind too. Like truly it is. Like Mary and I were kind of talking about it, but you have Blade that came out with Wesley Snipes, and you have certain movies that kind of were playing around with vampires at the time. But the way that Underworld kind of plays with a lot of the different vampire tropes and a lot of the different aspects, and just even the way it looks and how sleek and just
That's to me, yeah. To me, it's like The Crow is my favorite movie. Like,
mine
and
too.
to me, like Kate Beckinsale is to Underworld like Brandon Lee was to The Crow. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Agree.
Yeah, no, I feel like I feel like this is the first vampire movie where we really see a woman kind of owning her own power. Like it's not a vampire story where there's a woman that's kind of in love with the vampire, or it's kind of the trope of like Dracula's daughter, or playing off of Elizabeth Bathory, things like that. This is its own unique story, and from the very start, like, Celine is not a damsel in distress. We see that with her, like, at the top of the buildings, and then her flying down, and she does not play around. And it's never in an artificial way. Like, it's never coming off as, I'm too tough for this. Like, she is a very more emotionally vulnerable character as well. We see that layers kind of come apart.
Yeah.
But she's just a badass. She's everything that you expect from like a Blade character, but just in this cool, suave way of almost Dracula, where you just buy into her instantly. And I think part of that is Kate Beckinsale, because Kate Beckinsale is amazing and also very gorgeous. So automatically we like buy into her immediately.
She's also like just a super cool human.
Yes.
If you follow her on Instagram, you'll see. To me, she's like, back then I was like, oh, it's just this movie, but she's like a big, elegant movie star. Like, you see her in all the other things. But like, then if you look at anything behind the scenes, or like her real life, like Instagram or whatever, you're like, oh, she's a punk rocker. Like, she's the epitome of what punk actually is. Like, she just goes against the grain, does her own thing, and everything is fuck you. And like, she's just awesome. And
she really is.
way.
I think people forget that, like, when she did this movie, her and Michael Sheen had been together for a long period of time, and they did this movie together. And then she, after they split up, she fell in love with Len Wiseman, who directed this movie. But it's always kind of cool to me that, like, there was never anything like bad between them, like, especially I think because they have a daughter together. But like, even him and Len Wiseman, like when they did Rise of the Lycans and you see them interact and stuff, like, they're all really cool. And like I was telling Mary, when Sarah Silverman was dating Michael Sheen, you would see all kinds of stuff about Sarah Silverman and Kate Beckinsale, like being best friends, and like the three of them hanging out and stuff. So I feel like that's just kind of an indication of somebody that really is like confident in themselves, and really just like is like, I feel like a lot of times we live in the melodrama of things. And I feel like for her, she's like, listen, I really cared about this person. I had a child with them, but we're not in that stage of our life anymore. But this is still my friend. I still care about him. And I feel like she's had that like authenticity with every relationship she's had and any interaction she's had with people in general. So I think that's really cool.
He's so good too.
Yeah.
Like, that was just part of what made this movie so magical, is just perfect casting. Like,
yes.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I love him in everything. I was so like crushed that the Prodigal Son didn't continue. I thought that show was amazing.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw it, but
yes. Yeah, he was
phenomenal in that.
He was very good, and he does like a lot of, he is one of those actors that kind of just does whatever the fuck he wants, and he kind of just plays with all kinds of different things. Like, there are so many different like horror movies that he's been a part of that are like smaller movies and stuff like that, or different things, and he's just like all across the board. And I feel like a lot of it again is good casting, because I don't think you'd believe in Lucian as much without Michael Sheen's presence. I don't think you'd
Right.
believe in
Yeah.
Celine's presence as much if Kate Beckinsale wasn't her. And you definitely
that role was made for her. That's how I feel.
tailor
Yeah, it
made.
really was. It's like, yeah, it would still probably be a cool movie. Like the writing is good, the effects are great, but when you've got somebody who just becomes that character, like she is Celine, and the same for Michael Sheen. Like you get it, like, oh, we need someone to play the werewolf. Like his just look, his eyes, and it's like he looks like a werewolf to
And
me. Like,
he does kind of bring this, like, he is that kind of suave where the killer part comes in, where you do see that like more villainous side, but then you also buy into it more because he kind of plays into the Dracula trope, where you have, this love story between him and,
Yes.
and his one true love, and how she was taken away from him, and that's how it's motivating every single thing that you do, and you just want to believe in him so much.
yeah,
um and the
and
same.
he delivers that. He makes you feel it, and that's you're like, there's a turning point in that movie when you're like, oh shit, he might be the good guy.
Yeah, no, you really do. And you kind of go on that too with Celine's character. Like you go on that journey with her, because at first you really understand her judgment, especially when it comes to Victor. Like you understand their relationship and how she feels like
Mhm.
he's a father, and you really feel that like deep-seated betrayal with her when everything unfolds the way that it does, especially in later movies when you find more and more out. It's
Yeah.
just one of those things that I think it there are horror movies that simply exist, and there are other horror movies that just exist on a different plane, and I think this is one of them. There's a reason why people gravitate towards back this, because it's not just the fact of the way that it looked and how revolutionary it is for its time, but it's also the way that they played the story, because it's action packed. You have so many different layers, so many different tropes, like the way that they brought modern pieces into it with like the guns and the
The
bullets.
shooting, I was gonna say, shooting daylight, like, come
Yeah,
on, that's so good.
shooting silver.
I mean, of
um
course, the silver bullet thing's been around forever,
right,
but
but I
like,
mean, like, the liquid silver
yeah,
is kind of what I was more or less talking to, and more or less like you don't really see, like, you see like fighting in vampire movies, but you
I
don't
like
see it
that.
on this level. Like, we're talking like John Wick kind of level. Like,
exactly, yeah.
she is like the John Wick before John Wick. Like,
There's so many shots. Like,
yeah.
you could just take s- frames from this movie and like it's all amazing. Like the cinematography needs to be talked about more, because there's so many good, like just the backwards flip in the tunnel, or the when he gets hit by the car, or even just the swooping of her cloak as she goes around the pillar in the subway, and just the little touches. It's all just so it makes it almost feel like a motion comic book, it's beautiful.
So, if anyone saw me like looking away, looking down, I was looking because I saw something earlier when they were talking about the stunts. I was looking at it, and Kate Beckinsale does a lot of her stunts.
She does.
And I was looking for the article because fact check. I don't want to say anything that's not true.
Right.
But yeah, it that amazed me. I was like, oh my gosh. So, because we see these actors and we always think like, oh, that's them doing it, but then you got to remember, no, there's a stunt person usually. But she
Yeah.
did a lot of, I mean, she didn't do everything because some of those things are insane, but some of the ones she did was still pretty dangerous, and I personally respect her dedication to the movie.
Oh
Yeah, a
yeah.
lot of the shots that you see, like with certain things, like you see her face in it, like there, and even when it is her stunt double, it is pretty seamless. Like the way that they worked this into
Mhm.
like how seamlessly it is, it just it's beautiful. If you think about it, it's kind of like a dark fairy tale before like dark fairy tales were
I
really
didn't
like a
like
thing.
that.
Yeah, it's more or less like a modern, it's kind of almost taking the best parts of Anne Rice with the best parts of what made people gravitate towards Dracula with the best parts of Blade, and then just threw it together and decided, okay, we're going to really amp this up and we're going to make it its own genre because like you were saying, Mary, this kind of solidified after this movie came out and people gravitated towards so much, where we see a lot more movies with vampires being experimental, even with Abigail that just came out
So
by
cool.
yeah, with Radio Silence. um but yeah, so let me just quickly synopsize the movie. I'm going to read a quick synopsis from IMDb. Against the backdrop of an unseen centuries-old war between the sophisticated vampire clan and the brutish clan of lycanthropes, the Lycans, the lethally alluring vampire assassin and member of the elite death dealer squad, Celine, has devoted her existence to eradicating the Earth's scattered pockets of remaining werewolves. With the death of the Lycan supreme overlord, Lucian, the vampire's victory seems near. However, when their arch enemy takes a special interest in a seemingly harmless human doctor, Michael Corvin, Celine will unearth a long-standing conspiracy. Now treason, deceit, and conflicting feelings stand in the way of truth, forcing Celine to break protocol for the sake of the vampire race. Can a forbidden relationship put in jeopardy her noble quest? Is this beginning of a new era, an entirely different war?
I was just thinking about something as you were reading that. I'm sure this movie inspired a lot of authors that have lots of those series with vampires and werewolves, and because they're huge. They're so popular because you have this a really cool lore, then you got some romance thrown in there. You have twists and suspense
I
and
actually released a vampire book of my own this year, which is completely different and weird too. And the people that have read it have said, like, wow, I've never read vampires like that.
cool.
It's called Armageddon Fall of the Vampires. So if you want to read
I'm
something that
highlighting that, people.
turns vampire lore on its head,
You already know my ears perked up coming from the girl who had a vampire dictionary growing up, which we found a picture of it, and right now I'm working on unearthing it from my mother's house.
that's
Yeah, because I
So
awesome.
mentioned it to Cassandra. I've heard her, she talks about it all the time, and I'm like, you've never shown us.
yeah, I carried it in high school, and one of the things that gravitated towards me was there was a picture of David from Lost Boys on the front where he's like baring his teeth and everything, and you really see him in his full. But they mentioned Underworld on the back as part of it, and I had just seen Underworld. Like Underworld 2 was one of, maybe it was like one of the first 10 rated R movies that I actually saw in theaters. Like I convinced my dad to watch the first one and he took me to go see the other ones. Um, but yeah, it does. It's funny though. It's not funny, but um I talk about Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the game, but it also inspired a beloved TV series that I love, which was out in the 90s that kind of had a similar premise where it was like werewolves and vampires and different vampire clans and stuff. But they hit this movie with 17 counts of copyright infringement when it first came out, because of the whole premise. They said that it was too similar to their certain products. And the suit was actually settled out of court for an undisclosed amount, so we don't know what happened, but yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I never knew that either.
Who were they copying, they said?
Vampire the Masquerade is a game that is
yeah, I never heard of that before.
So it is a D&D style game.
I was gonna say Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, they have actual games of it. But if you've ever heard me talk about this before, there is a TV series that parts of it you can find on YouTube. You can also find the whole series for relatively cheap on eBay, but it's called Kindred the Embrace, and it was actually inspired by Vampire the Masquerade, and it is
I'm gonna write that down. That sounds really cool.
It's kind of the same premise. So it's like different clans of vampires, and there's a clan of werewolves, and they're all kind of on the same territory, and the werewolves are kind of supposed to be like the bodyguards of like the lead vampire clan, and like a whole turf war kind of splits out. It was a really good show, and it was very popular, but unfortunately the lead actor at the time, he passed away like shortly after filming, so they didn't. But it's almost like the days of our lives of vampires mixed in with like Goodfellas.
There's
two things I love.
I feel like there's a lot of like vampires almost go hand in hand with like soap opera stuff,
Yes.
They're dramatic, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at like Google. I just Googled it, and even in the Google description, which came from IMDb, it's Dracula meets The Godfather. So
makes sense. Yeah, Goodfellas.
So yeah, definitely. But the actor that passed away, his name was Mark Frankel, and he played Julia Luna, who was like the head of the vampires. And it was kind of crazy. And they had like different, like there was a Nosferatu clan that looked like Nosferatu. There were like certain
cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, there were certain like one was supposed to be like the more glamorous vampires that were like more inclined to be musicians and stuff like that. So it was very cool. But yeah, I had no idea that they sued. And they sued like shortly into them releasing it. So
I don't know, listeners, if you guys are doing what I'm doing, but I'm taking notes, and I was prepared for this episode. I'm learning so much.
Have y'all seen the Night Watch and Day Watch movies?
Yes.
Those are the only movies.
No, I haven't.
They're the only movies I feel like are comparable at all to the Underworld.
Yeah, they're very similar. So Night Watch and Day
stylistically, at least. Yeah. They're based on books, Russian books, I believe, and there's a third book, which is Twilight Watch, is the trilogy, and they never made the movie, so I was kind of frustrated because
I was very frustrated with that too, because I really liked the movie. I really felt like I've loved both of them, and I agree with you that it's a 2004 film. It is currently Night Watch is currently on Amazon Prime. But yeah, so this is the description for those of you who are interested. Hundreds of years ago, there was a battle between the warriors of light and the evil warriors of darkness. Realizing that they were evenly matched, the two sides agreed to a truce. The fragile peace between the good and evil is kept in place by two groups, the Day Watch and the Night Watch, each monitoring the opposite side. Now, Night Watch member Anton Gordinsky finds himself at the center of a prophecy that may mark the end of the delicate balance between the two sides. So so it wasn't just vampires. There's tons of
there was all
different
kinds of monsters and creatures.
You
And
mentioned the word prophecy, and I'm in.
Yeah.
And
so
well, the cool thing about it is like the monsters are, of course they're all nighttime monsters. So, but there have to be people from the day to watch the monsters at night to make sure they behave and follow the treaties and the rules. And then there's monsters that are like treaty members that have to watch the people and make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. And it's of course, there's people breaking the rules, so then
always
everything gets out of hand. And it's just such a cool concept and a different take on it. And then, the director, Timur Bekmambetov, I think, did it. He always does things with special effects like that are, just completely groundbreaking.
He actually, if I remember correctly, he people are gonna come for me for this, but he did Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and
I loved it.
And I loved
that movie. I loved the book too.
I loved it because I just thought, like, especially with him at the helm, like that was very like, I mean, that movie is just everything you never wanted, but you knew you wanted. It's there.
No, that's how I felt when I read the book. I was like, he put so much factual information in this with the ridiculous stuff that makes it almost believable. So where you can go,
this happen?
Exactly.
Yeah, you kind of want to like go back and like fact check. It's like, hey, listen, can we bring Abraham Lincoln to the front? We got a few questions that we got to ask you. We got to fact check this because too many things are adding up to feel true. But no, I feel the same way about Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
Like, I was going to ask that next.
Yes, I have always loved Jane Austen, but the fact that they took that and so seamlessly made that a horror movie, and I mean, it just
have you read the book?
Yes, the book is fantastic.
I was like, how does it still feel like it's written by Jane Austen?
I know. The whole time you're like, did Jane Austen maybe miss out on a horror career? Like did we lose a little bit here? Like
it's
perfect.
Gold.
It's perfect. So, there's so many that I feel like are relatable, definitely. But yeah, Night Watch and Day Watch. I remember watching that growing up and just being like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah,
like literally, because like there's just nothing like it, and it's just like such in your face, and like you just can't comprehend what I know. I had to watch it like a couple of times, and mind you, I'm from Ohio, and this was available at Blockbuster. Like my Blockbuster card was burning with how many times I rented this over and over again because I just couldn't comprehend the fact that like I was getting to watch this. Like it was just insane to me. But I feel like it's kind of a spiritual successor to this, Underworld as well. The biggest part for me that kind of makes this movie is her relationship with Victor. I feel like that is a huge thing because, we pick up on the love part, with Dracula, kind of that trope with Lucian, and we kind of see that with Celine and Michael, but the part where we get the kind of like justified vengeance, we kind of see that through Celine because she really has been sold this lie this whole entire time.
My heart broke for her.
yeah, that Victor stepped in when her family was killed. He saved her. She was his favorite. He was like a father to her. And throughout this whole entire movie, when things devolve the way that they do, where she finds out that so many things could be happening, she relies on the fact that he'll believe her. And he does in some specs, but then we find out that he's the problem the whole entire
Yeah.
time. Like,
And the worst part about that is that he's supposed to be asleep for another century.
yes.
You know,
Right.
he doesn't even need to be part of that. She could have you know, found other ways and, or woken who was supposed to awake, and maybe it would have gone completely differently. But
Yeah.
the whole reason she brought the problem back is because of her attachment and her love,
Yeah. And you do feel that like justified sense of like, oh my God, like that, you feel that moment truly, like when, he's trying to kill Michael and Michael's turning into the hybrid. And, you kind of feel that with her for a minute where she's just like stuck because she's like, this is the person that meant everything to me. But then we get that satisfying moment where she just like lops the side of his head off. Like that is another one that's just so beautifully aesthetic. Like her just like literally like getting the side of his head and literally like flying to the other side,
Yeah.
and then you just see his head slide off. I'm just like, that shouldn't be as beautiful as it is, but it is. In a way, it's just so satisfying.
That's when like horror and action and stuff is effective. When those things that, like you said, shouldn't be are. Like, then you're taking people out of their comfort zone and making them appreciate something that they wouldn't. That's art.
Yeah. And I mean, truly, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen Underworld, we're leaving a lot out because we want you to watch the movie and then come back and talk to us about it. But also, if you haven't seen it in a while, come back and talk, because there are some things that I picked up even on when coming back to it. But I mean, like, we get the betrayal too with Craven, but let me be honest about Craven, okay? Craven is the perfect example that even vampires can be fuckboys. Like from the beginning, this man is just got like, I'm just going to go ahead and call it. And listen, forgive me if you don't want to hear this, but he literally gives like limp dick energy. Like the whole entire time he's like going after her while like trying to pretend that he's like this badass. And it's like, you can't even be in the same room as this girl. Like you should feel blessed by her presence, and the whole time you're trying to control the situation, and he's acting like, oh, he's this big savior because he did all of this, when you find out that he's a fucking coward and he basically made a deal. And how badass of Lucian, by the way, to literally like cut his own brand from his body and like give it to him and be like, yeah, I'm gonna dip out for a while. But yeah, I mean, he's so spineless till the very end. And you want Victor to kind of pick Celine so many times, but then you realize why Craven is where he is, because he's just a lackey and he has picked up every single person's mess and kept all the secrets. And yeah, I mean, he should have just went with old homegirl to begin with. Oh my gosh, the blonde girl, I'm trying to think of her name now. I'm going to look this up.
She is like really underrated too.
Yes.
She's super good in everything she's in.
Yes, she is fantastic. She goes on after this. Sophia Miles, she goes on after to do this, and she plays Erica. And
That
she
scene when she sees the bite and she just flies and clings
flies
to the
up. Oh my
ceiling,
gosh, that
and
is
she's like, I was like, that is so perfect. That scene is awesome.
she is perfect.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, she's perfect. I just remember her for doing Tristan and Isolde after this.
Yes,
And
yeah.
then she did Moonlight, which was like a vampire series as well. And she was like the main love lead. But yeah, she's gone on to do a lot of really cool stuff. A lot of people did from this movie. I mean, Bill Nye, who plays Victor, I had no idea that the same Bill Nye that was in Love Actually was the same Bill Nye that was in Underworld. Like, and that's just indicative of Bill Nye as a character actor, because like anything he's in, he eats the scene up.
There's
And
a lot of people have been like complaining about him as a person because of the things that he says in like media and whatever, and you know, that to me that's neither here nor there. uh he was so good in Underworld. He was just perfect. So
yeah, I feel like, you know, I feel like there are people that we just, if it's not something that is completely, absolutely and abhorrent, like you're saying something that's just genocide level, I think there are people that we just have to realize, you know what? People can have difference of opinions, but we can enjoy people for who they are. Because I'll be honest, I fucking hate the director of Jeepers Creepers, Victor
oh
Salva.
yeah, God.
Yeah, he's fucking disgusting.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
despicable.
do love Jeepers Creepers, and I do
The
feel like,
first one, yeah.
yeah, that first one is just, there's something special about it. And I know like between him and Justin Long, there's been a lot of stuff that has come out. But just that movie itself is just great. And I feel like a lot of times I can separate that from,
Wait, did you just say something bad has come out about Justin Long?
Oh yeah.
yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that came out about
Underage.
Justin Long. Yeah. Yeah,
I've not
there's a
heard
lot of,
anything. Justin Long is our male scream queen.
It
yeah, I
warms our
I
know.
love
heart.
Justin
Me and
Long.
Cassandra found out at the same time, and we were not
Yeah,
okay.
and I listen, I'm not being quick to judge here, because obviously there are two sides to every story, but obviously I'm going to believe anybody who comes up forward and has the courage to say something. Victor Salva, the thing that gets me, and this is I think the line, and I've talked about this before, I can enjoy Jeepers Creepers, but am I going to go watch, you know, the Funhouse that has him in it, where he actually, that's where, you know, a lot of his crimes happened? No, I'm not going to watch that, because that's just, he used that in order to do the things that he did. But Jeepers Creepers, you know, that's just a product of who he was at that point in time. And I think we can separate the two. But like knowing that, you know, that's tainted by the fact that he used that to do abhorrent acts, for me personally, I can't separate that. But Jeepers Creepers, you know, that was so many years later, and I'm not saying that that makes anything better, but I think we can look at that as a movie and not as the person behind it. And I think there are a lot of things like that. You know, I love Gone with the Wind, but I'll be the first to admit there's some parts of it that are just not great at all.
Well, let me go on record now that we've mentioned all these really terrible people, and say that I haven't heard of Bill Nye doing anything on those levels at all.
No, and no, and I think
He's
I
just outspoken, like, you know, with
yeah, and
politics and stuff, and it rubs people the wrong way because, you know, no matter what you feel as far as politics and stuff, you're gonna rub somebody the wrong way.
yeah, I that's exactly what I where I was getting to, that point where I think he's just outspoken about what he feels, and I feel like
Good for
that's
him. You know?
that's fine. Good for him that he is. If you don't like him as a person, that's fine. You can still respect him as an actor,
It
and for the
doesn't take
things,
away the characters that
yeah,
portrayed,
yeah,
which reminds me, because when I was I had bookmarked, I guess, on your phone this earlier, and it was the story of Victor, and how do you say your name's Corvinus? Is that right?
Corvinus, yeah.
Corvinus, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I learned a lot about Victor. I did like a deep dive because he was one of my favorite characters when I first watched it. Besides, of course, the normal ones, but because I just thought there was something so cunning about him, where you understand why she believes him, where you understand the relationship, and they did a really good job with that. But this, I want to read this. Victor was a Hungarian general and a warlord, and he was ruthless and cruel, and I'll never say his name right. Corvinus.
Corvinus. Yeah, no,
Corvinus.
it's a man, a very wealthy man who ended up it's the werewolf gene and the vampire gene, which we find out in the second movie. And his sons were that, and
it blew my mind. I didn't know all, like, watching the movie, I didn't know that all that background. I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
And so when we were preparing for this, I had bookmarked that that info because I thought that makes a lot of sense with stuff.
Yeah, he ended up, I think they say it in the movies, but he ended up like making a deal with Corvinus.
Because Corvinus is the first vampire.
Yes, to give him immortal life and for him to watch over his two sons. And we find out in the second movie that is how Marcus kind of gets drawn into everything, is they hold his brother against him, and it ends up devolving in some really fucked up ways, which, by the way, Underworld never gets the credit it does for the fucking soundtrack that it fucking
bombs. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Atreyu, Her Portrait is Black for the second one. Like, I remember being in my goth screamo moment with that at 14, and my parents probably thinking I'm like the devil. And I was just like, this is such a great song. Like, and
there's something about the atmosphere that the music plays. You can't describe it, but you know it. Does that make sense?
You could feel it. You could feel it. You could touch it, because I forgot about Evanescence for a little bit of time. I was a big Evanescence fan, but then when they did Made of Stone for Evanescence, Evanescence did Made of Stone, and they did the remix for when Underworld came back. For let me think which one that is. It's not Blood Wars. It's Underworld Awakening. That's what it is, because that's where Theo James comes in, and I am obsessed with him. Obsessed with him. I felt like he was the perfect person to add to that. But no, like when they played Made of Stone, and it's like her, and she's like got the guns again and stuff like that. And that's what I love about this, is once you think that this is done, like you've gone through Underworld Evolution, and Rise of the Lycans coming back, they hit you back with, well, you thought you were done with us. Well, shit really got real, and this is what happened. And we get like a whole different side of things. And it's just crazy to me how they take it, and especially how much deeper the story gets with all of it. So I don't think that this is like the last time we've seen Underworld. I think we're going to keep seeing Underworld for a really long time.
One thing that
I feel like the later I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I feel like the later movies don't get enough credit.
No, they don't. They do not.
They're not really talked about that much, and they're brilliant.
They're so brilliant. Like, just the way that they add so many people to it. And Underworld Awakening had Michael Ealy in it as the cop, and you had like the Lycans now becoming like just the way that Lucian does in the first one. They kind of undercover have come back in a way that we don't expect it, with like the technology and everything like that. And Theo James coming back in as like the son of one of the purebloods, and how they really like devolve that. And Charles Dance ends up being Theo James's father. That was like a brilliant fucking plot twist. I'm just gonna say that right now. Like, And the way that they kind of take things too, because the second movie, like the last movie that they did, Blood Wars, like you get that kind of burnout from Celine. Like she's just been through so fucking much. And now, like, on top of it, her daughter's gone and she doesn't know how to deal with that. So, like, really, she could have just gone back in the coffin and been done. But, like, she's like, let's do a plot twist and let me reinvent myself. And how better to do that than to actually, like, die and come back and have, like, crazy supernatural powers that somehow we didn't know about from this clan that's out in the middle of nowhere. But it totally makes sense.
You
I
know,
mean,
going back to the where it all started, one of the things that I think is just proof of what an actress or actor, however you want to put it, Kate Beckinsale is how much, if you just watch her, like how much she says with her eyes when she's not even
yes.
speaking. Like there's so many scenes in the movie where she gives off so much emotion and thought and story, and just with body language and facial expressions. And I was just just noticing that watching it again recently, and I was like man, she is awesome. Just
Yeah, she really, that plays a lot into like the star-crossed lovers aspect, because you can really tell through a lot of this movie she is fighting her own nature. Like she
yeah,
is not wanting to
absolutely.
feel the things that she feels, but it's hard for her not to. And you get such a deep story with them because like she even says, she's like, I kill your kind.
I was
Like,
just gonna say that
yeah,
moment in the
yeah,
car.
yeah, I kill your kind. But then we get towards the end and she makes all of this discovery where she finds out that Victor killed his own daughter and this is why. And how everything that she's ever been told is a lie, and how everything she's told, because the death dealer is like, she is the death dealer. Like we find out
Mhm.
that more in Blood Wars, because they bring her back to school a whole future generation, but she is that assassin. Like she is supposed to be that cold-blooded killer. She has killed a lot. They made her a perfect killing machine by selling her this river of lies, and she comes a part of that. So you see her struggle between how she's gone through centuries dealing with this, but then now too she's realizing, oh shit, I'm human. Like I have human emotions still. Like I still can feel love. All these things that they told me weren't true are true, and for some reason I am attached to this person I don't want to be attached to, but I fall in love with them. I think it's, you find out more when you watch Rise of the Lycans, because there is so many similarities between
Oh yeah.
her and Michael and Lucian. I'm trying to think of her name because every single time I forget it and I feel like a butthole because um Rona Mirtra plays Sonia, who is Lucian's love interest, and I love her because she was in Doomsday, which I think is another underrated
Oh
movie.
yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
But she is fantastic. But you do see, like, in Rise of the Lycans, you see the same thing with Sonia, where she's like, she is fighting against the fact that she has fallen so hard for him, and is really struggling with the ways that devolves. And Lucian, when she eventually bites the dust, a no pun intended, um but I mean, no, that scene was horrible. I'm sorry. Like Victor is a fucked up piece of shit for that scene alone. Like you burned your daughter alive because you were mad that she got with the other species. Like that is a whole other level of just fucked up. But
I
yeah,
mean,
I mean, go ahead.
It's a, a classic theme though,
Yeah.
going all the way back to like Shakespeare.
Yeah, no, this is very much like the Shakespeare goth
Mhm.
fairy tale version of vampires. And there are movies that kind of bring these themes earlier on, and then we see a lot of movies after that do this. So definitely check out Underworld. I highly encourage it. It just opens up your mind. And we just celebrated World Goth Day, and I feel like Underworld is a great example of how goth can look to so many people. Like, you don't have to be the stereotypical like goth character. You could just be so much more. Like, there are so many levels to being goth that I feel like this movie proves it, because it's not just the way that Celine looks, it's the way she acts. It's how badass and how much against the grain that she's willing to go in order to do what she feels is right. And I think that's the spirit of being goth, of being different. And I love that. And I think this is a perfect example of just how we can see that beautifully on film. And so many, because this is not just a horror film, it's a action, it's a romance, it's drama. I mean, like, she literally shoots her way down a whole fucking flight of a building. Like, did you guys ever watch that Mythbusters episode where they tested that out? Where they literally like took the guns and like tested if you could actually do that, where you could like shoot your way down to the next floor, and it's not possible. Spoiler alert.
Well, but she has better bullets, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like, and she also has superhuman strength. So
Yeah, she's a vampire.
I mean,
Shut up.
how thin are they compared to her?
yeah, I mean, like, the whole movie. I mean, like, I'm gonna be honest. Campaign for Lucian to be added to the roster of horror daddies. Like,
Oh
full,
yeah.
full stop. Like, full stop. Like, he needs to be up there with everyone else. Like, he
I agree.
is that moment. Because I love Tobias Menzies, and he's in Blood Wars. He kind of plays the Lucian type of character. But Michael Sheen is just, he's on a whole other level. I mean, I
Yeah.
like Tobias Menzies, but I think he does a great job in that movie, but he is not Lucian.
No, that's
So
what I mean. Like, and I think that's what happens with the later movies and why they don't get the attention, like
yeah,
it's just when you have like all these pieces come together perfectly, like just the right casting, the right music, the right like look and aesthetic, and it's just when it's a hard thing to
yeah,
accomplish where very few movies have like that's why I compared it to The Crow, because to me
yes,
like that movie, the goth feel and aesthetic and the casting and everything was just spot on. So I feel like every once in a while everything just falls into place.
yeah,
And
no,
even if you have a great storyline and all this amazing stuff later on, it's not gonna like the chance of everything perfectly aligning. It's like, like the stars aligned perfectly.
yes, yeah, it's that lightning in a bottle. You just can't
Exactly.
replicate
Yeah.
it.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, it really is. And I feel like, so obviously I love The Crow as well, and I feel like there are a lot of detractors, especially with the new movie coming out, and I get it because I am a hard fan for the original, but I truly believe, and maybe I'll eat my words after seeing it, I truly believe that this is not trying to be the original. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that
No,
when,
it's not. It's not.
yeah,
It's it's trying more to take a modern twist on the comic book.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that when Brandon Lee died, they had whole characters that like were going to be part of the movie, like the Death Cowboy, and the way that we see the certain scenes in the trailer for the new movie. So I really think that they're trying to do that. I don't think that they're trying to be the new movie. I don't think they're even trying to touch that. I mean, I have to believe, with as much respect as Bill Skarsgård has gone into other remakes, I would have to believe that he wouldn't have taken it if he thought that this was going to be something disrespectful to Brandon Lee's memory. Because I'm a huge, like, anyone who knows me knows that that is my comfort movie. Like, that is literally my lifeblood. I have it tattooed on my back. Like, that is the quintessential, like, when you think of horror that heals, that is the movie, because every single molecule of that movie is just dripping in just everything that you want it to be. And
it's so quotable too. It's just like one of the most quotable movies.
It really is. And it's not only that, but it just shows how deep heart can be put into horror movies without you really thinking about it, and how horror can be its own genre. Like, that movie, it's the same way with Underworld. You cross so many different genres into its own, like swerving into different lanes, and it all works. When you have the right components, it just works right. And this is one of them. I did kind of make a list of similar movies. So
I really like this list you made.
Go ahead.
Before you do the coincidentally talking about Bill Skarsgård, the first thing I ever saw him in, he was a vampire. So
yes,
it kind of comes full circle.
Yeah.
And it was that show on Netflix where he was the vampire and there was
Hemlock Grove.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The first season of that was so good.
It hits so fucking hard. Like, you really forget how hard that fucking hits, but it really does. Like,
I totally forgot oh my God. Sorry.
And that's also one of my favorite werewolf transformations ever.
Yeah. No, I feel like there's just something about some of the earlier days of Netflix with some of the original shows, before they were cranking out, like, and this is coming from somebody who has admittedly watched the new season of Bridgerton like 20 times, but I'm also somebody that, like, I'm happy to see a positive representation of somebody that is not a size 2 actually, like, being wanted, being desired. And I also think that Bridgerton is one of those shows like this where it kind of just plays with things. I mean, Shonda Rhimes took a book series that was very like one-sided and just added so much diversity and so many different layers to it. I feel like that's what makes it popular, and that's what we see in horror now, with a lot of the ways that we're like coloring outside of the lines, even more so than we were before. So I hope to keep seeing people play with it, because, like, we just recently watched Abigail, and Abigail,
I haven't seen it yet, so no spoilers.
No spoilers, but I will tell you, you will love it. Everything
I already know I'm gonna love it. You know, Bo loved the trailer for it so much that he always wants to play it. And he's like, can we play this scary vampire girl? And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, now you have to come to me and then I'm gonna say the line. And I'm like, okay. So I just go and stand in front of him, and then he goes, I'm sorry for what I'm about to do to you, and then attacks me.
That is the cutest thing. For those of you who don't know, that is Chisto's son, Bo, who also has a book.
Yeah, it's called The Death Digger, and it's better than anything I could write. So
what you're saying is he's the future of horror. I believe that.
Absolutely.
I believe that. Him, Braden, and Haley and Juju and Zane are all going to be like the ones that carry us into the next. We always joke that our kids are going to, take Horrorcraft on for us.
I did a podcast where he was asking me about Bo and the Death Digger, and he said to me, he goes, well, how would you feel if your son, made it and became like the next big thing? And I was like, what do you mean? That's my son. I'd be super proud and happy. Like, and he's like, what if he like, but he makes it in your dream, And I was like, I'm never gonna be jealous of my kid,
Yeah.
I'd be nothing but happy for him. And then he goes, happy. But then he goes, no, I said to him, I said, like they say, the student surpasses the teacher. That's the saying, and he goes, no, I mean now. I mean, what this book, when he's 4,
I mean,
just takes over the world.
I would be happy with that. Like, I mean, especially my child, he does have a YouTube channel where he does videos, and sometimes the videos I don't even know he's doing. Like, he's just like, he'll be in the car to be like, what's up guys, it's me Brayden, and I'm in the car going here, and I'm like, wait a minute, you were filming during that? And he's like, yeah mom, I was updating my followers. But like,
that's so funny, updating my followers.
Yeah, he does. And I'll admit, he gets people in. It's the cuteness factor for him, and especially the bluntness of my child. It's me times 1,000. But I always think if he were to make it big, like, that would just be, I would be so happy, because I always want him to feel free to be him, because I didn't really feel that way growing up. And so I think
that's what I was saying. Like, your dream, the person said your dream is for him to be happy and successful and live a good life. So yeah, that is your dream.
That's my dream too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, but no, I agree with you. Like, some people are like, aren't you like worried about him coming up with these horrific ideas and everything? And I was like, I'm not gonna stifle him. Like, his imagination knows no bounds. It's one of the most intriguing imaginations I've ever come across. And there's no chance in hell that I'm ever gonna stifle that. Like, to me, I'm like, I'm a huge Clive Barker fan, and I grew up on Clive Barker, and as far as horror fiction goes, like, I always felt like he took it to another level and a different place that no one else could ever take it. And Clive has said that a lot of his stuff comes from his dreams. And, Bo wakes up every day and tells me his dreams.
Aww.
And he comes up with just new creatures and monsters and stuff all the time. And he'll like tell me in detail. And he's not like, like, I traumatized, like I had this horrifying dream. Like, he's like, I had a dream, and he was called, uh s- uh the skin face or something, the skin face man. And he had no face because it was all just skin where his eyes and nose and mouth were supposed to be. But he has a giant head, and he wears a regular size hat, so it looks really tiny on his giant head. But then where his nipples are, uh, uh or where his eyes are, and then his belly button is where his mouth is. Well, since he has no eyes or mouth in his face, and it's all just skin, he has eyes on his nipples and mouth in his belly button, and really razor sharp teeth, and he wants to eat you with his belly button mouth. And I'm like, that's freaking terrifying. But you're amazing.
Yeah, it's like that's great. Like, I am so, like, some of the things that my child just picks up on too, and some of the like commentary about, like, I remember this was probably a couple months ago, but I had on Creature of the Black Lagoon on in the background.
One of my favorites.
Yes, and I love it, and I've said multiple times that has become one of my more favorites in my adulthood, because of the fact that,
definitely, like, my favorite Universal studio.
Yeah, because Creature, he's in his own element. He wants to be left alone, and people keep coming in and fucking up his shit.
Right.
And that's my opinion. So, but I'm literally like, I didn't notice that he was watching it like for a couple of minutes. And by this point, we watched Five Nights at Freddy's together when it came out, because Brayden loved Five Nights at Freddy's, like the games and stuff. And he started getting really interested in different things like that. That's why I think, for anyone who has some criticisms with Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie, it's supposed to be a gateway horror movie for a reason. It's supposed to get younger generations into the horror genre in
And it
different ways.
worked. It
And it
worked.
worked. It
So
worked.
many kids I know went to see it and were so excited, and they went in cosplay as characters. And
Yeah, Matthew Lillard was just recently, I think it was like Texas Frightmare or something like that. And there was a kid that was dressed up as him as Springtrap, and he was taking pictures like on his camera and everything and talking about how cool he thought it was. And I'm just like, I grew up with Matthew Lillard being in
right.
Scream and then Scooby-Doo. So the fact that my son now gets to have a piece of that as well as Matthew Lillard as that, I think that's fucking cool.
I feel like you left out 13 Ghosts.
Oh fuck yeah. I mean, listen, Braden's not gonna be ready for that until he's like 16 or 17, but probably Scream too. I keep forgetting about that. But yeah, 13 Ghosts. I mean, Matthew Lillard has been in a lot of fucking things, and
my favorite thing he ever did was not a horror movie. It was SLC Punk.
Yes.
Yes.
Love that
Well, and a lot of people don't realize he stayed on as Shaggy for years. Like in all the animated stuff for Scooby-Doo after he did the live action version of Scooby-Doo, he did Shaggy for fucking years until they came out with Scoob. And while I do like Scoob, it broke my fucking heart because he literally posted about how they had like taken it out from under him. Like they didn't even give him a chance to come back and be the voice. And he had done it for so long. So it just breaks my heart. Yeah, he is like there, you can't convince me otherwise. Like that's his personality, like to a T. So, but no, I love the fact that he's getting this recognition and he's connecting with this younger generation because we all just wanted that. Like, I mean,
yeah,
Matthew Lillard Renaissance is happening, and we're just like the Brendan Fraser Renaissance is happening. Like, I want all of them to come back. Please come back for my child. Like, the Mummy is the next one I'm going to expose Braden to because he's already talking about mummies and he's
the
looking
Mummy
up.
movies are so corny.
I love the Mummy movies though. I
Oh
do.
my gosh. The moment it totally lost me was when Brendan Fraser uh turned around and caught a bullet between his teeth. And I was just like, all right, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Like, he's just a dude. He doesn't have superpowers. You can't catch a bullet. Like, what are you like, what are you doing? What are you
Wasn't
doing
that in
right
the
now?
third one?
Huh?
Wasn't that in like the third Mummy movie? I think it was.
It all
Yeah.
blurs together.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like
There was
listen,
also the one with the CGI rock face on the scorpion. Like, that was so bad.
it was, but I mean, I don't know. I'm nostalgic as fuck for it.
I mean, I love Brendan Fraser. But yeah, those movies to me are like they're like candy corns, like they're not good, but you eat them because it's the season.
Yeah, it's kind of like okay, I'm really gonna show myself now. I watch Yellowstone, especially with my 70-year-old grandparents. And Yellowstone, all the people in there starting out are fucking horrible. Like you're watching this and you're like, Kevin Costner is in this, and these people are fucking vicious. And then you watch it later on, and you're like, you know what? They kind of have a point. They kind of, I understand that. Like Beth, she isn't the most likable character, but guess what? She's a best. Yeah, it makes when you find out what happened to her and all the stuff that she had to go through and stuff, you find out why. But in the first season, you're kind of like, why the fuck is this person even popular? Like, and then you find out, okay, well, we're peeling back the layers, but yeah, no, I get it. So the similar movies that I had put on this list.
Oh yeah, I want to hear them. I want to hear them like one at a time though, so we can talk about it.
So Near Dark.
Oh yeah, Near Dark was. You want to talk about movies that turned vampire lore on its head and were revolutionary for the time? when that came out, goodness gracious.
Yeah, Near Dark to me, I just instantly see Bill Paxton in that bar eating up that whole entire fucking scene and just being degenerate. And he's filthy. He's got the blood all over him. He's got his spurs. And you just love every fucking part of it. Because you're just like, this is fantastic. But yeah, and to find out that Catherine Bigelow never really intended it to even be a vampire film. She wanted it to be a like neo-western, and
Oh.
she decided, okay, like in order to get it made, she was like, okay, we're gonna make this a vampire film. And it just and Lance Hendrickson as being like the leader of them, and you want to hate him so bad in that
I love
movie.
Lance
But
Henriksen.
Lance Hendricks, we have a parasocial relationship. Lance Hendrickson is my father in my mind.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, because like I just grew up with him being like
yeah, me too.
such a strong, especially in Pumpkinhead when he's such a strong father figure. I'm just like,
For me, it was Millennium. Did you ever see the show Millennium?
yes, I have
Uh,
seen.
it was like right around when X-Files was big,
Yes,
and it was about a pandemic,
yes,
and just the emotion of him like with his children and ah,
yeah. He
I'm gonna get chills thinking about it.
he always just eats up every scene he's in, and he knows it. And especially in Near Dark, like the moment you meet him, you just go through so much. So he is fantastic. But yeah, Near Dark, the other one, the
For
next one,
people who don't know who Lance Henriksen is that are listening to this, I know you've seen Aliens. He was the
he's
android.
he's
Yeah,
Bishop.
he's the best part. So,
Yes. Yeah, and Near Dark is actually on Tubi right now, which is fantastic because you
Tubi
generally
is awesome.
Tubi
Yes.
really the fact that Tubi got Near Dark is kind of a fucking flex for me, because like when I wanted to do a deep dive recently on Near Dark, I had to scour the dark corners of the interwebs for a physical copy of Near
Oh
Dark.
wow.
Um, which
I would
was
just pop my DVD in, but
yeah, I was just like okay, eBay seller so and so, I'm entrusting you the fact that you do have an actual copy of this movie and you're not going to scam me. Please let it work out. Um, the next one is Daybreakers.
um,
You don't like Daybreakers?
is it is that the show or
No,
the
the Daybreakers with Sam Neill and Ethan Hawke.
yeah, no, when when that movie came out, I is when I had originally written my book,
Mm-hmm.
and uh and I felt like I did something completely different, and then this movie came out, and like all the people that knew me, which was not many compared to Hollywood, was like, hey, this is kind of a ripoff of your idea. And I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure it just,
Yeah.
happened. But then watched it and I was like, yeah, they didn't even do it good. Like, mine's better. Like, make a
I
movie of my book.
I just like it for the pure idea that it just kind of flips on every head. I mean, the idea that we vampires are no longer the outliers. They are the majority, and we have become the minority. And I
Yeah,
love
that's what my book is about.
well, then, you know what? They do need to do your book, because that would be fantastic, because I do
I just re-released it on its 10-year anniversary of the original publish, and I reworked it and everything. It's got a fancy new cover. But yeah, same thing except in mine the they're starving because there's no humans left to feed on. So the government releases a news broadcast that says, uh, hey, we lied to you, and vampires can feed off of other vampires. We just didn't want you all to know that because we were trying to protect you from yourselves. So then the entire world goes cannibalistic crazy because they've been starving for so long. So, everyone's attacking each other and killing each other. And there's a teenage boy and his 6-year-old sister who are caught in the middle of all this,
Whoa.
who are just trying to survive, and like, the mailman, the policeman, their neighbors, everyone is wants to eat them. So
That sounds
but
really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm sold now. Yeah.
but that was my idea, like back then. And then Daybreakers came out, and what and I was people were like, "Oh, it's like the same concept to your book." And I was like, "Son of a because now if I release it, people are going to be like, "Oh, you're ripping off Daybreakers."
No, I think that's a cooler idea, honestly. I love Sam Neill, so that's probably why I have a soft spot for Daybreakers. Sam Neill just kind of eats it up that whole entire movie, like with his character. I really feel like him and Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke, I will
I
tell
do
you,
love Ethan Hawke. I
yeah,
do.
Ethan Hawke is the single most underrated horror actor there is. The fact that he has given us so many different versions of himself in horror films and people don't latch on the way that they do is such a disservice. I remember watching Sinister. I was actually made to watch Sinister while I was pregnant. That was the most fucking terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life. I literally looked down at my stomach and went, I hope you don't come out and kill me. I literally I got so uncomfy. Now watching it, I'm fine, but like, yeah, don't watch it when you're pregnant. I think I've advised that before. Let's not do that. So, um, yeah, so that's on Tubi as well. Blood Vessel is another good one.
I don't know that.
So, Blood Vessel is a movie that I think originally appeared on, oh my gosh, Shudder. Um, it plays on the vampire. So if you've ever it's a 2019 film. It is currently streaming on Tubi, and it is basically a lifeboat of survivors board a German boat that is crawling with vampires during World War II. And instead of your traditional vampires, they go more off of the idea of the actual traditional vampires, which is Strigoi from Romania. And it's a while. If you like Ghost Ship, it's Ghost Ship with vampires and Nazi themes. It's
If you want to take those, you want to take those themes and find something that also twists vampire lore and make something completely original, is the Strain by
yes.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yep.
And
Yeah, so to piggyback off that, there is actually another one that I think does a really good job at that. And that is it's now on Netflix now. And I mean, I knew about it when they first were starting to film it because I love Luke Roberts. Luke Roberts was in Black Sails and a couple other really great things. But Damp Fear, which is based on the Italian like dark novels. And that is fantastic. That is about a man who goes around kind of conning people into thinking that he's getting rid of their vampire problem when he actually gets put in the middle of an actual vampire problem and finds out that he's half human, half vampire. And the way that goes is just kind of fucking crazy. I love that.
I watched the trailer for it the other day because I was thinking of watching it, and I had never heard of it.
Yeah,
and I what I was thinking was, as I watched it, this reminds me of Underworld.
Yes, it really does. I think
with the action and the shots.
Yeah. If they ever there's a scene towards the end where they go into this big library and it's all the knowledge about vampires everywhere and stuff. If they ever got a chance to do a sequel, that would be on like night watch, day watch level, because they would just go so fucking, because the implication with it is it's not just vampires, it's literally lore about every single thing, and now they're going to go out and find all the new ones. So this is one of my personal favorites, but John Carpenter's Vampires.
I was waiting for it. I'm surprised it was that it took that long to get to that one. I was like,
I was hoping you'd, because if anyone ever sees like me or Cassandra and you're watching this, look off screen, we've got notes to the side. Yes. We're not distracted, we got notes. But when I saw that, I saw she wrote JC Vampires, I went, that's got to be John Carpenter Vampires. Yeah. And I love that movie.
Yeah. I mean, I love all that is John Carpenter, but
it was so different.
Yeah, that movie's a classic for sure.
Yeah, to me, it's just, so it kind of has that feel like Near Dark, where it's just like the gritty, like in the middle of nowhere. But James Wood as like the titular character, that is the character that I will forever know him as, because you believe him and he is not the most sympathetic character in retrospect, right? But you gravitate towards him, and just the way that they wove like so many different things, it just worked. And that motel scene where like everything, and the fact that that's like in the very beginning, and then it just gets worse from there, you're just like, what the fuck did I step into?
When they go to that den, that's always gets me.
Oh my gosh. So that's on no, that's on Netflix. The other one that kind of reminds me of that as well, and this is my forever, well, I have another one on here that's just my forever favorite, but From Dusk Till Dawn.
One of my favorite movies.
It's so good, but like I wanted to love the series and didn't.
I've always seen the first movie. I really had I'll be honest, I had no interest, because the way they ended it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so the series got better after time. I think it more or less hit its stride like towards the second season into the third. Like I think they made a good call on ending it in the third. But no, I think it does provide some good context, but I also am in the belief too that we didn't necessarily need the series either, because I feel like I don't feel like we needed the sequels either, because I feel like the first one, you don't expect it to be a vampire movie. You only find out that
that's what made it so brilliant.
Right. Like you only figure out that it's a vampire movie halfway through, when everything goes to shit.
Exactly. And it catches you off guard. It's like a punch in the face.
Yeah. And I mean,
it was just a Tarantino movie.
Exactly.
I was like, oh, okay, so they're gonna go to this outlaw bar and get in fights. Okay, they're vampires.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that he convinced George Clooney to do a horror movie about vampires.
That was in the George Clooney's like in every time.
Peak. And I mean, George Clooney is the least George Clooney in this movie. Like he is tatted, he is violent,
I feel like George Clooney is the type of actor who really probably could do anything if he really wanted to.
Really truly could, because like you just fully buy into his character, like just so many elements of it, and the way, and so many people are in that movie. Like you got Danny Trejo, you got Cheech Marin, you've got Selma Hayek, you've got Tarantino.
Selma Hayek in that movie.
Yeah, and you've got I mean, you got Gore Daddy himself, Tom Savini, and the fact that Tom Savini is in there with a fucking crotch gun.
That I love that thing. It was so funny.
I mean, like, that to me, the only other movie that I ever felt like stepped towards that level that Robert Rodriguez did, horror genre
exactly
wise,
what you're
is when they did the Planet Terror.
Yep.
And
I knew you were going there.
I saw those in theater, and I remember some people were like, "Oh God, it's so long." I was like, "I'm loving this."
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of people didn't respect the fact that they had a vision for that, and the vision was to bring it back to those days of just really, those movies
even made
that
fake trailers and ads and stuff to get
and
the
most of those
feeling and
fake
the vibe.
trailers have become movies. Like with most recent, Machete. What most recently, Thanksgiving, that was Eli Roth did that trailer. I mean, like, yeah, you got to give them credit. That just like that.
I thought it was great. I thought it was wonderful, and I wish there were kind of more things like that where we get those double features. And
yes,
yeah, I loved it.
So one that kind of flies under the radar for a lot of people, either people have seen this or they don't get this, is Stakeland.
Oh my God. No, hold on. That is like my heart.
Yes.
Everything those guys have done is just pure genius. From their, like, the start with Mulberry Street. I was just talking about this the other day. New York City, I was in a chat where everyone was just talking about the rats in New York. And how people outside of New York who haven't been, grown up there and whatever, like, can't handle it. They see the New York rats and they're like, nope, I'm out. And we're just like, it's just New York, but like, so when these guys took the New York rats and made them, and bite people and turn them into like human rat hybrid zombie monsters, like, the sound effects alone to that movie freaked my ex out to where she couldn't sleep, and she didn't even watch the movie. She just heard me watching it.
Yeah, and
it's so good. Everything they've done. And Stakeland 2.
We Are What We Are.
Yes, which is a remake, but they did it beautifully.
Yes, and like they've done so much, but Stakeland it was so different because it's
like a zombie movie, but with vampires.
Yeah, and it takes that kind of component you get with 30 Days a Night, like the best parts of it, and puts it in that landscape. And I just think that packs such a punch. And it's a gut punch, though. It takes every best part of a sci-fi movie and amplifies it just a million times over. Like, it really just does.
I was actually not expecting that to be on your list, and I was going to add it when you were done. So I'm super excited that it was on your list. You never know
with Cassandra. She's going to pull it out.
Because that's my, like, oof, man.
Yeah, I love it.
I tell everyone, like, it hurts my soul how many people haven't seen that movie.
Yeah, no, I've actually considered reaching out to the director of Stakeland to see if he would come on to talk about it, just for the pure fact that I feel like so many people don't talk about it. Like, the fact that it's out there in the universe and people don't watch it. And you know what? It's funny to me because the reason I ended up watching it was I'm a big Gossip Girl fan, and the boy that's in this movie, the actor, I'm trying to pull up his name right now, he plays Eric in Gossip Girl. And when I saw that he did Connor Paolo, who plays Martin, he played Eric in Gossip Girl. And when I found out he did a horror movie, I'm that kind of person, when I dive into a show, I need to know all of, if they've been in anything horror. And I went through the gambit. And when I found out he was in that, I was like, okay, we're going to watch this. And then when within the first 15 minutes, I was like, what the fuck did I just get into? Like, It really is one of those
And
movies that just like,
the barn scene.
oh my God.
Like I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but that scene wrecked me.
Yeah, I mean, like this movie does to vampires what Train to Busan does to zombies. Like, I mean, the whole time, it's just amps up, but it just emotionally guts you
Yeah.
every single bit of the way, and you just don't
Yeah.
know how to handle it. And then when you're done, you're like, well, fuck, what was that? But then you're like, okay, I need to watch that another 7 times.
And the guy who plays Mister,
Yes.
he aside from being in like all of the stuff they do, in fact they may have even I don't know if they did it or not, but he was also in one of the best recent werewolf movies,
Night of
Late
the
Phases.
Oh, I didn't see that. See, I know that he was in oh my gosh, he was actually in The Sacrament.
Mm.
That's what I knew him from because I kind of pulled him out of it. Um I know that he's in Night of the Wolf. So I don't know, but I remember him from The Sacrament because I've saw Stakeland. I've seen The Sacrament before, saw Stakeland, didn't put the two and two together. And then when we were talking about The
Nick
Sacrament,
D'Amici.
yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Late Phases. It was 2014 werewolf movie, and it's really good.
yeah, that sounds amazing. Yep, I see it on here. It's also called Night of the Werewolf for certain movies. I mean, certain, it's on Freevee right now. So if anybody's interested in watching it, it's on Freevee. Go watch it.
It's
Um,
by um it's by the same director that did Here Comes the Devil. If anyone's seen that, I know that was
yes.
kind of big.
Yeah, that's very, very big. But no, I remember seeing him in The Sacrament because I had to rewatch The Sacrament when we did our true crime, and I always tell people that The Sacrament is probably one of Eli Roth's best work because I feel like he understood the assignment. He understood that this is a reenactment of something truly evil and vile, and he didn't try to like conflate it in any way. He just played it out for what it was. And I think it's a great reminder that people can be the worst monsters.
Oh, I
Um,
mean, I think that like that's the whole concept behind like everything George Romero ever did.
yes, yeah, exactly. So the last one on this list should not surprise anybody, and you can disagree with me all you want. I have a nostalgic place in my heart and soul for this. I just think because it's a
You
different
better
concept.
not.
Dracula 2000.
Okay. Whew.
What did you think I was going to say?
I was so afraid I don't even want to say it.
Go
Like,
ahead and say it. It's a safe space. We won't.
no, I don't want to even bring it into this conversation.
Were
It
we
doesn't
gonna
belong here.
were we gonna mention the tea?
Sparkling vampires.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
we weren't gonna
Yeah.
talk. The only sparkling vampires I co-sign on this podcast are the ones that get maimed to shit by the Haim brothers. The Coreys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, the original sparkling vampires were the fucking Lost Boys. To me, there's never going to be any iteration of sparkling vampires because you remember that was the whole thing is they added glitter in the blood to make it look different when they fucking exploded.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's like you can't erase that
I
for me.
I'm not a fan of Dracula 2000.
No, I understand. No,
I love him as a director, and I love all his, contributions to horror, and the whole horror industry would be nothing without him. But oh man. I mean, you're entitled to have your your pick, but
I just feel like because it's such a different way of doing it. And honestly, the biggest part of this, and people can say it's because I'm a fangirl of him, but anyone who's seen the test footage that he did to get the part of the movie, Gerard Butler eats it up as Dracula in this movie
Oh
because
yeah, no, he definitely.
yeah,
And
I
I
mean
like Gerard Butler. I don't
yeah,
think he gets enough. I mean, he gets really like beaten down a lot.
he
Like,
does. And people are so shitty about it. But if you go back and you look at the test footage, which we actually put when we did the Dracula 2000 episode, we put the link in there. It's on YouTube. But if you look at the test footage that they did for Dracula 2000, he was filming Attila the Hun at the same time. So he came in with like the long hair and the, the under eye makeup and stuff. And he is literally like goth daddy Dracula. And I mean, like, just the way that
like
he,
that.
yeah, like the way he just like sucks you in. It's just, and anybody who's like watched the behind the scenes, all the actors said the same thing. They were like, the moment he got on screen, like he would be like the most genuine person behind the scenes, and you'd be like laughing and joking with him. The moment that he got on film, he turned into Dracula. And to me, I feel like any plot can be forgiven if you have a good Dracula, because that's a really hard thing to do.
so that
We can agree to disagree on that, but no, I feel like you can't make a Dracula movie work without having somebody who is so multi-layered, because that's who Dracula is. Like, we got that from the beginning with Lugosi, and we continued to get that through on, whether it was all the iterations down to Gary Oldman, like down to Gerard Butler, down to the ways that we've seen it unfold in recent pop culture. Like, you can't
Nicolas
have
Cage.
yeah, Nicolas, I mean, and he was perfect for that too.
It was so good.
It was so
It was
good.
so good.
But even like Luke Evans, the whole part of that Universal Monsters, like dark universe falling apart, that made me so upset, as Luke Evans and Dracula Untold is actually a pretty good movie. And it had a good point. Like, Charles Dance is like the person that made Dracula, and he was going to be kind of like the person to bring all the Universal monsters together. I like that. But then you had Tom Cruise just swerve in and fucking wreck everything. No offense. Well, full offense to Tom Cruise, because I still can't forgive you for that. I'm sorry. I'm really like you. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings. You were the chosen one. Star Wars. I'm getting that confused. Like with Obi-Wan, where he's like you were the chosen one, and you feel that scene. It's literally like that. Like, we had an opportunity to get like a fully fleshed realm out. Like, the whole reason Epic Universe, the Universal Monsters part is happening, is because they had that whole plan of that and tying it into movies and stuff like that. And he had to come in and be like, okay, well, I don't like the fact that the Mummy's like the main character. Well, no shit, the Mummy's going to be the main character. The Mummy's been the main character of the Mummy movies in its whole entirety. So
That's
feel
the
like
point of the movie.
yeah, that's the whole point of the fucking movie. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, Arnold Voss, Brendan Fraser's great, but people are also focusing on Arnold Vosloo. Like, I mean, it's Arnold Vosloo. Let's be serious. Or Boris Karloff.
On the Wes Craven note, Cursed is also a very underrated werewolf movie.
Very, very, very underrated. Very underrated. There are a lot of Wes Craven films that I feel are just grossly misaligned. Like, a lot of things that the same thing you could say with Carpenter. There are tons of Carpenter. Like, we just did Ghost of Mars a couple months ago, and I'm sorry, that is a good fucking time.
I loved it.
I fucking loved it. I mean,
you said, it's just a good time.
It's got Jason Statham in the beginning, like in his beginning, like, form of acting. It's got, Natasha from Species in there. It's got Patty Green. I mean, it's got, I mean, just, oh my God, I can't say enough about it. But yeah, there are so many Carpenter movies that I just feel like, are you kidding me? It's John Carpenter. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, I also like the idea that they play with, okay, Dracula might not even be Dracula. Like, Dracula could just be another iteration of Dracula, of like the vampire myth. And where does this really begin? Like, why does he hate certain things? Like, what's the idea behind it? I don't like the fact that they cast Johnny Miller as the other love interest, because I cringe a little bit when he's like, you don't fuck with an antique dealer.
Oh gosh.
That to me was like so cringe. Like,
I literally groaned out loud in the movie
I
theater.
know. I was like,
I was like,
oh. And I mean, we're supposed to buy that she's supposed to be more entranced by him than Gerard Butler. It's the same thing with Phantom of the Opera. Like, you have Patrick Wilson before Patrick Wilson even was like, who he is now, and we're supposed to buy that you're going to take him, the lanky character, versus Gerard Butler in a mask. Like, come on, like, seriously. Like, I don't get it. The Gerard Butler misalignment needs to stop. But Mary's laughing because she knew that I was going there.
I'm laughing because I was.
No, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I've always liked. In fact, what my ex-wife, she was one of the people that like hated him, and we would get in constant arguments about it. And then anytime there was a new Gerard Butler movie, I was like, oh, I gotta see it. And she'd be like, we are not watching that crap. And
I just feel like
he get into these big arguments over Gerard Butler.
I just feel like
my favorite. I love him.
Yeah, I just feel like he does a lot of different things, like whether it's gamer or it's law-abiding citizen. Like, law-abiding citizen is so fucking underrated. Like, the fact that I mean, that technically is a horror movie if you really think about it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The fact that he meticulously, like, he goes from being this like staunch citizen in the beginning to like how deeply he devolves into psychosis is just insane to me. And then you have him in just so many different other kinds of, and more recently he's done like disaster movies. Like, he just did.
Was it Shotgun Preacher? Was that what it was
Yes.
called? Like, how can you watch that and not think he's a good actor? Come on.
I mean,
like,
really, truly. And I mean, could we not forget like the lengths he went to become King Leonidas in 300? Like, that was a fucking commitment. Like, I mean, really, truly, like, anybody who's done a Zack Snyder movie has said how much of a commitment that is when you get signed on for something like that. And that's because of the bar that Gerard Butler has set. Because, I mean, he lived, breathed, and dreamed that movie. And I just don't think that he gets enough respect for that. And like I said, he's done some like disaster related movie. I know Geostorm was one of, Greenland was another one. Greenland, like, the whole world goes to shit because of a comet, and him and his like wife are like separated and they're trying to get back to each other and stuff. And I was like, this is like, why aren't people talking about this more? Like, this is pretty fucking interesting. But I think it's just because people are like, oh, well, he did some rom-coms and stuff. Like, everybody does. Like,
I like the rom-coms.
Cillian Murphy did, he just did Oppenheimer, but he did 28 Days Later, and in his beginning he did Red Eye. He was part of the Batman series. Like, he's done all kinds of shit. Like, let people live. Like,
most of that was horror though.
That was, well, because I'm more horror related. But I mean, like, he's done like, how many films has he done with Christopher Nolan? Like, he's done Dunkirk and Oppenheimer and all kinds of those. And I mean,
Oppenheimer in its own way is kind of a horror movie, though. I think.
It truly is. Like, I mean, I'm under the belief that I feel like anything can be horror. So I mean,
I think any war movie is horror.
Yeah,
for sure.
I feel like any true crime or anything crime related can be horror too, because again, we learn humans can be the worst monsters of them all.
So is that
So
your whole list, or is there more?
yeah, no, that's the whole list. That's just the
Okay,
ones that
well,
I came up
so I
with.
do have one that you left off then. You kept naming all the ones I had in my head, but I have one left, which I feel like is one of the first movies I saw that really did vampires different. And it's actually George Romero, Martin.
Yes, I was going to put that on the list, but I left it off. But I was thinking about it because I would say the same about Kronos too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I do think that there are so many, like, and if people, I mean, we could add to this list for like ever. You know what? I'll add another entry too. And Steve, if you're listening to this, this is for you. But Sharkula is another one. Sharkula is not by any means a great movie, but like, when are you going to get a movie about a shark that gets like takes a bite out of Dracula and somehow becomes a Dracula shark?
Okay, I'm putting this out into the universe. Brian G. Berry, I need you to write the novelization of Sharkula.
I know. No, no, listen, that was
He
like
he writes the novelizations of all crazy shark movies. So
that's well, Steve Coates, our friend who does the Bucket of Chum podcast, I did the episode with him about Sharkula, and I mean, like, he finds some of the fucking craziest shark movies possible, and
There's
just
a lot of them.
there's a
there's a
lot.
lot of them.
There's a
There's
lot,
a
but
fuck ton of them.
but just the fact that we were in the middle of Vampire Month and we're discussing a shark movie that somehow has a shark that is now a vampire that
I
is
don't
connected.
hate that premise, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
that's connected to Dracula. That's also a cult. Like, it's it's. I mean, we could work with it. We could work with it. But yeah, I mean, that's out of the box. And listen, that is always forever on Tubi. So please
You
go
know,
watch it.
Underworld is equally about vampires and werewolves, and I feel like we're just focusing on the vampire aspect. Like your whole list was vampire movies.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I feel like they focus on the vampires for a reason. The if we're talking werewolf movies, I am always harsher on werewolf movies than am vampire movies.
I don't think you
Um,
should be because it's much harder to do. Like,
yeah, but that's why I think I am harsher on it because there is so many just good examples of great ones that I feel like people. So one of my favorites that a lot of people don't talk about is Howl,
oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
which
I
is
love that movie.
fantastic. That that's on Tubi. Obviously, Dog Soldiers is another one for me.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, dog. See, that's my problem though. Is Dog Soldiers to me? I mean, I understand we have American Werewolf in London, and I understand that that's like God's here or whatever. But for me, Dog Soldiers is that because Dog Soldiers to me is just it's everything you expect it not to be. And it's just so different in so many ways.
You know, I'm gonna say the same thing about Ginger Snaps.
Yes.
That movie is not, it's not at all what you, I mean, it just,
And
I
it
was just
doesn't
like,
and it doesn't get enough credit for how revolutionary it is because
exactly.
of the fact that it relates such a deep topic about women changing and going through that period of change
Yes.
to that. So yeah, so to me there are just movies that have hit that like top tier that it's harder for me to kind of buy in to certain werewolf movies because I know when it's good and there's a lot of times where it's not good and I
But
feel like
there's different levels of good.
yeah,
Like you're
no.
saying, there's good like that. And then there's good like there's a movie called The Big Bad. I think I think it's just called The Big Bad or Big Bad Wolf. I'm trying to remember. I'll have to look it up. But the the werewolf in it still talks like a person, and he talks shit through the whole thing as he's like killing people. He's talking smack like Freddy Krueger, and it's hilarious. And yeah, it's not like you're not leaving that movie like terrified, but you have a great time. It's a great time. And
Yeah, like
that's a different level of good.
I think Bad Moon is another good one. I think Werewolves Within, which recently came out a couple years ago, was a good one.
Or like I said, Late Phases, that one's
Mhm.
good. And then what is the one oh man, it's it doesn't have anything about werewolves in the title. It's like oh man, now I gotta look it up. It's something about hold on. Talk about something else while I look this up.
Um,
I was looking up some, and there's one I was surprised to see on the list, but for werewolves, Trick or Treat.
Really?
yes.
I didn't even think about that. I was looking it up.
Yeah, the segment that's
Times
probably
we're
the
mentioning is on here.
that's probably the best segment of Trick or Treat. That probably really is because that's
I know, I
just
like the pumpkin.
Um
oh with what's her face?
It was a shock. That's why I like that part. Oh, okay. The dad.
Yeah, no, but I'm my favorite part, and this is probably really fucked up because I would literally like murder somebody for doing this to my child, but the kids on the bus.
Yes.
That because of the fact that the kids get justice. I like the fact we need more movies that talk about kids that have special needs that don't have boundaries. Nothing needs to be a superpower or something. We could simply just have a good comeuppance or a good story behind it, and it doesn't need to be anything like crazy. Like it just needs to be something solid, and I think that that's a haunting tale. That is definitely something because that's the worst possible thing imaginable. So, but no, I think that's good. Monster Squad has a good werewolf in it. I mean, the fact that
Monster
they
Squad is the best. You know, like
Monster Squad really is.
Alucard.
Yes. And the fact that they got around using the Universal monsters, but not really like them being the Universal monsters, that always to me is just like a good time. But
Have
like
y'all seen the movie Wolves with
yes, I with Jason Momoa, yes, I
yeah.
have. I do like that.
It was fun. It wasn't like it's
It
not something
wasn't.
to write home about, but
I mean, it's Jason
it was
Momoa.
fun.
It's Jason
Yeah.
Momoa as a werewolf, so I'm sold. Well, while you're looking that up, Mary and I can go ahead and start about our things we like in horror this week. Mary, do
Well,
you go ahead?
on the werewolf topic, before y'all do that, because I can't find this and it's driving me crazy because it was such a good movie and I will find it. But on the werewolf topic, I'm actually have a werewolf book coming out too, co-written by C.A. Bainham, uh, who is amazing. So it's called Not the Worst Monster in Town. So look for that.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. We will definitely like I said, we'll link the Amazon down below. Look out for all the new releases. Mary, do you want to take this week in horror? You want me to take this week in horror?
You go first.
Okay, so for me, um, Interview with the Vampire is back. We are in episode 2 this week, and I need you all to get behind Interview with the Vampire. If you are not watching Interview with the Vampire, the TV show, like this is everything you ever wanted from Anne Rice and more. It is so much better as a TV show, leaning into all the different themes. And we're in episode 2, and I'm already like,
Yeah,
I'm
I need
feeling
to
a little,
watch it. I haven't watched it.
you will love it. Like it doesn't I love okay, so Interview with the Vampire, it can be a great movie, but they tiptoe around the fact that Lestat and Louis were lovers, and they really don't get fully into that. The first season, you see the highs and lows of Louis and Lesatte's relationship. You see a lot more of where they're at before Claudia comes in. I mean, you just feel the full brevity of everything. And I think it's just such a positive representation of the LGBT community in horror, because there are some not so great parts of it. Like, you see a lot of the abusive side of their relationship, but I just think it does such a good job at demonstrating the highs and lows and giving such good context. And this, I mean, like, we're in the second season and the second episode, and we're already at the Circus of Vampires, and I'm like, fuck. So watch it. Kylie had to speed up to get to where I'm at with watching it, because I was like, now we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. This is crazy. And I mean, watching the show, you kind of feel like, okay, well, I know Interview with the Vampire, I know Anne Rice and stuff like that, so I'm going to know everything about the show. No, the fuck you aren't. You are not. You are not going to expect certain things. You're not going to expect them to go certain places. It is not the 1990 version of Interview with the Vampire. The first episode of the first season, the last 20 minutes, my jaw was on the fucking floor. Like, it is gruesome. It is brutal. It is everything you expect for something of the subject matter. So watch it. It is currently on AMC Plus, and I will check in with you after the season is over and tell you if I am still emotionally traumatized, which I probably will.
I found it.
What is it?
It's called When Animals Dream.
Ooh.
It's so good. So good.
Yeah, we're gonna find out where it's streaming, and we're gonna put it on the list, because I need to watch it now. So
Cassandra knows this about me, but I have a whole list that you guys mentioned a lot of movies I hadn't heard of, so my list got longer.
No, good.
I don't know if you know this, but I actually started out as a fan of the show.
Yes.
And I binged every episode. And then we started talking and everything, and then now I'm here.
Yeah. No.
But anytime I can add horror movie or book insight for people, that is like
Always.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you're always, like, your recommendations are spot on. Like, I mean, always. So what is your thing in horror this week, Mary?
I am going to go with last night. With my mother-in-law, we watched The Changeling from the 80s, and I'd already seen it. I love that movie.
It's actually from the 70s.
Huh?
It's actually from the 70s.
Well, it was released in 1980.
Yeah. It got like a later release, but yeah, it's like a whole thing. I didn't have context either, and Ambrose breaks it down. So Ambrose, thank you for everything. Like, Ambrose is the one that gets
very 70s, though. It's very 70s.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen it in a while, and I forgot how good it was. And one thing so I watched it with my mother-in-law. She'd never seen it. She loved it. One thing is, they just don't make movies like that anymore.
No, the way that fucking devolves, especially the last like 20 minutes, especially that fire trick with the staircase, because I don't think they use that a lot anymore, where they do the reverse light, where they light it on fire and they wind it back up. But just like, it's not in your face, but it gets there, like, and just there are just some very subtle undertones, and it is definitely a great one for beginners. But if you're a horror fan and you haven't seen The Changeling, like, that's fantastic.
It goes from paranormal to true crime.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely spans the gambit, and it talks a lot about trauma in such a informed way, and it's just beautiful. And I love that you watched it with your mother-in-law. For those of you who don't know, Mary watches weekly, every Wednesday, watches a horror movie with her mother-in-law.
That's beautiful.
Yes, it's fantastic. And she always reports back to us when she watches something that like we know, and we're like, yay, mother-in-law fun, yay.
I
So
got very lucky when I married my husband. So
yes. Is there anything that is going on in horror right now that is tickling your fancy, Chisto?
Oh, yeah, everything. Um, most of it, I think, would be book-wise, but let me see.
book-wise counts
Yeah, books are.
because I'm the book person of the group mostly,
Um,
and I love horror books.
well, there's a lot of them.
He could supply you with a whole list. I mean, really.
I mean, golly, you could just read what I've written and you'd be there for a long time.
Yeah.
But no, let me think. If there's something exciting horror wise. Um
What were you saying, Mary?
Oh, one thing is if people want to get into like reading horror, Grady Hendrix has a book and it's basically about the history of horror literature and spectacular.
I thought you were going to talk about the final girl support group because I have that in front of me
Yeah,
right now.
that's a good one too. He's one. I read most of his books. I haven't read his new one yet, but it's called. I think it's like Paperbacks from Hell or something. It's called. And
I don't know.
And I don't know how many things I bought it in paperback. So many things I highlighted that I need to read.
I mean, I did that with my vampire dictionary. I don't know if I've gotten to that point yet where I've watched everything or gotten into everything. Who knows?
Funny story for everyone. I always pictured Cassandra as a teenager with her vampire book, but I pictured like a gothic book with a hardcover, and she's just that extra girl walking around with it.
Yeah, and it's not. It's like a paperback that looks like a big like dictionary. I'll have to see if they have like a full picture of it. If we're talking like the book you're talking about, I do have a collection that Jim bought me, not this past year for my birthday, but the year before, that is Dracula. That is like a really like nice bound, like it makes me look all fancy schmancy.
oh,
So
I have a horror thing. I went and watched Scream Queens finally.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And like
yes.
just loved it. I was laughing my ass off. Like it's so smart and like
It doesn't get enough
uh,
credit.
no, it doesn't. Like, and you know, one of the writers said that they thought it was ahead of its time, and I think it definitely was. Like, I feel like if it came out now, it would be
Oh, it'd be
huge.
huge.
Yeah.
It'd be big. It would be so big. Like I just don't think people understand how like impactful those movies would be now. Like because the horror has always had a history of doing things outside of the box, whether intentionally or unintentionally. But definitely, yeah, definitely that is a huge, huge one. So I completely agree. And I feel like that's something very timely, especially with Pride Month coming up. So I love it. But yes, well, thank you, Chisto, for coming
Thanks,
on
Jeff.
with a Keisto. Thank you. I am tripping over my words right now. ADHD and brain
I
in
do love
effect.
cheese.
What kind of cheese? What kind of cheese are we talking about?
I mean, all?
All? Yeah, yeah. The whole charcuterie board. The
I mean,
whole
yeah.
board. The
Yeah.
whole board.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
want
no.
all of it.
Yeah, that's me too.
I mean, I haven't really met a cheese I haven't liked. I have met some toes I haven't liked, but
Yeah, I mean,
but
I've tried a chocolate cheese before. It's in
I thought you were
Frankenmuth.
gonna say you tried chocolate toes.
Whoa.
That's the quote for this episode. That is the quote. But no, it's chocolate cheese, and it's from I think it's like Grandpa's Cheese Barn from like Frankenmuth, Michigan, which is like a German town that's kind of very touristy. But yeah, it was chocolate cheese, and I still can't remember what it tasted like. That's only been like maybe a decade or so ago, but I think it probably wasn't great if I'm not remembering it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It
Everything
wasn't
like it's fine. Like chocolate covered bacon's amazing.
I mean, chocolate covered
chocolate covered
bacon,
bananas. Chocolate covered most things, but
something,
chocolate
some,
cheese, I don't know.
yeah, some things are not meant to be things.
My all-time favorite is Gouda.
Good. I love a good
Especially a
Gouda.
good smoked Gouda.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
When I was
Yeah.
when I was a little kid, I asked for I was like 6 years old. I asked for Gouda cheese for Christmas because I loved Gouda so much, and I loved peeling the wax off to
Oh.
get to my, cheesy goodness inside. And I woke up in the morning, Christmas morning, and we went into the living room where my parents would put the presents out for me and my brother. And there was like toys. And I was like, "Where's my cheese?" And started crying. And my mom was like, "Wait, wait, wait, wait. Come to the kitchen. Come to the kitchen. Open the fridge." And I opened the fridge, and there was my Gouda cheese, and that's like all I cared about. I was like, "I got my cheese, my Gouda." And she was like, "I couldn't put it in the living room all
Yeah,
night."
it would have been a little weird.
Yeah, that would have been a little, that might not have been a
The
great
Christmas
Christmas
tree
story.
smells weird.
Yeah, most definitely. But thank you so much for coming on. This was fantastic. And
I learned so much. Like
yeah,
I actually I have notes, okay, guys, on facts I did not know.
so you, I'm just going to share this with you, but I have always told people that like when you're going to come on or when I talk about you, that you literally remind me of the character from Cabin in the Woods, the guy that they like misalign as the stoner, but actually is like really the genius behind everything. Because I feel like people don't give you enough credit for just how profound, especially when it comes to horror, like you really are. Like you understand just so much. And I think it's just such a joy to always hear that and always just understand. I mean, you just understand things on such a good horror fan level, but then such a basic, like, profound understanding level. And I always feel like when I'm talking to you, I'm like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, like, you're giving me your wisdom. I am your Padawan. You're bestowing your wisdom upon me. So I appreciate every time you come on and you give us just so much context onto things because it's fantastic. So I don't say that just because you're my friend.
If you're ever gonna do like an episode about Dracula, I know Dracula came up a bunch tonight. Matthew Gleason is the person to speak to because I don't think I've met anybody who has more of a love fascination, bordering obsession with Dracula as they do.
Mary's looking at me because I am that person too. Yeah, no, that's great because we are going to be covering the original Bela Lugosi's version of Dracula soon. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. So Matthew, if you are listening, you have full access to come on our podcast whenever you want and talk about Dracula. We can have full conversations about it. So because I am that person. I just love all of it, and I just think it's just so interesting, all the ways that just the history behind it and the ways that people interpret it and just how much content there is out there. So I could
So
go days talking
it's
of.
amazing how much different mythology and everything there is with one character.
Yeah, no, I just think that it's just such a universal understanding on so many different levels. So Dracula is never going to die, and we keep proving that time and
Yeah.
time again.
I
We keep
mean,
seeing.
Matthew themselves has written a lot of Dracula stuff. So, and I feel like we'll definitely continue to do so. So,
Well, this sounds like somebody I need to go ahead and Google right away.
100%.
And I need to be like, your friend Chisto sent me your
yeah,
way.
yeah.
And I feel like we need to have these conversations because I am in the know. Like, Dracula is my all-time. So my love affair into horror began mostly like I mean Freddy Krueger was a big part of that, but because he was the first one.
Right.
But Dracula was the one that kind of sucked me in because just so many different levels of movies that have him in it and the ways that people interpret it. I think it's fantastic. But go
That's
ahead.
how I feel about Frankenstein.
Yes, Frankenstein. I mean, all Universal monsters, I'm going to be honest, I love all of them, and I feel like we all need to respect them a little bit more because without them, we wouldn't have as many amazing building blocks as we do for horror. I think all of us can identify with at least one of the Universal monsters, especially Creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm going to need people to put more respect on his name.
Right?
Like,
I'm saying.
I mean, I feel
It's
like
just because like you said, there's so much Dracula stuff and there's so much Frankenstein stuff. There's all these different, versions of all of it. And then there's just Creature. Like he's just no
I
one's
mean, I kind of understand why people don't do the Invisible Man, oh, except for the new
well,
Invisible Man
hey,
that came out because that was fantastic. But
it
the
was good.
original Invisible Man, he's a dick. He's a fuck boy. Like
Yeah.
he is,
Which totally makes sense.
yeah, which totally makes sense for like that. And yeah, I did like the fact that they played into that with the new one because I feel like they try to like give him some kind of redemption in the original, and I'm like, this guy is just a dick of a character.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, there is no like, I mean, there's just a lot of bad choices. If you're gonna lean into it, lean into it. Like give him his full Monty.
Oh, you said that and it made me think of like a quintessential vampire movie we didn't mention, which is Let the Right One In.
Oh my gosh. Well, I didn't mention that because I feel like that is more what you would say like it is the quintessential vampire, but I feel like that is more loved base for in my opinion. Like it is fucking terrifying.
But it's I mean in a like twisted red flag traumatic kind of way.
Yeah, definitely. Like no, definitely. So I definitely agree with that. But yeah, Let the Right One In is fantastic. And if you're gonna watch Let the Right One In, watch the original, please.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I said let the right one in.
Yeah. Not
I
let
me in.
It let me
Let the
in or
right one in.
whatever. Yeah. So, but thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
There's another a vampire movie when we were talking about vampires doing it different. And there's I believe it's Swedish. I could be wrong. But it's called Frostbite or Frostbitten, and
Yes.
it's about with this scientist who's or doctor in a hospital or something who's taking he has a vampire patient in the hospital and he's taking his blood and turning it into like a drug and selling it on the street, and these kids end up taking it to the big end of the year house party for like graduation or whatever, and thinking everyone's gonna get high on this new drug, and then so many of them turn into vampires and just start killing everybody.
What's it called?
It's called Frostbitten. It is currently streaming on Plex and Tubi.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, so I have seen it before, and yes, it is.
Sounds really good.
It is.
Yeah, it's got comical moments, it's got terrifying moments, and it's just such a like I was like, what a cool different concept. What a cool way to do that.
Yeah.
Like vampire blood is a drug, and then but people don't know, like they've done it before. People like treat vampire blood like a drug and you get addicted to it and everything. But when you
Mhm.
don't know and
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's fantastic. So I would definitely recommend it. But thank
Okay,
you
I'll
so
stop talking now.
No, I mean, you're fantastic, most definitely.
This
So
was so much fun.
this was a lot of fun. I know Kylie is going to be a little bummed to not have you to not have been on this episode, but obviously
I
you're going to
mean,
come.
I will come back.
Yeah, you're going to come back. We already talked about it. Like you're coming.
I have lots more like movie, show, and book knowledge to share.
Yes. Well,
I'm a nerd.
I think we're going to have you come back for a different kind of episode.
Ooh.
So we'll talk about that in a minute. But until next time, it's me, Cassandra, and go down to the description in this episode. Literally look up every single book that Chisto has literally written, whether it's with somebody or by himself, and read them. And please go out there and support all your independent authors, whether horror or not, but especially horror, because they are the future. They're the reason why we get to
sweat and tears in those books.
Yes, and it means a lot.
Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, they are holding up our genre right now as well. So definitely go out and check out the amazing ones. We'll have some suggestions down below as well, which Mary will give us because Mary is the book person. Well, I mean, I'm huge into books too, but that's Mary's bread and butter. Mine is Dracula. So we balance each other out. That's what happened. Kylie's is a conspiracy theory. So we make a big
she's super fun with that.
Yeah, we make a big fun trio. So, but until next time, it's me, Cassandra, and
Mary.
And we are the Horrorcraft Podcast, and we are saying stay spooky and have a fun summer, because this will be in our Hot Ghoul summer lineup. So get out there, read some books by the poolside, and let us know what you're doing. So until next time, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.